Ukraine's allies have agreed that now is not the time to lift sanctions against Russia. Some 30 leaders from the so-called Coalition of the Willing gathered in Paris today for their latest summit on how to strengthen Ukraine's position. Also there was Volodymyr Zelensky, who accused Russia of trying to drag out its talks with the US so it can grab more land. Sir Keir Starmer says the coalition agreed they must go further to bring about peace in Ukraine.
It means increasing the economic pressure on Russia, accelerating new, tougher sanctions, bearing down on Russia's energy revenues, and working together to make this pressure count. We also discussed how we can support the implementation of a full or partial ceasefire when it is in place.
Well, earlier I was joined by Ukraine's Deputy Foreign Minister, Mariana Betsa, who's in London lobbying the UK to help with efforts to get back the more than 20,000 Ukrainian children abducted by Russia. I began by asking her if the return of those children is a red line in any peace negotiations with Russia.
This is one of the red lines. We need to include the issue of children into any peace talks, negotiations, and meetings. And this is extremely important for our President, Volodymyr Zelensky. This is extremely important for the entire Ukrainian nation, but it is extremely important for every family whose child was abducted, brutally abducted.
There is, of course, a maritime truce of sorts. Is there actually any kind of peace deal right now, or has it been strangled at birth, really, by Vladimir Putin?
Ukraine is fully committed to peace, and we undertake all necessary actions to comprehensive, just, and lasting peace for Ukraine. But it should be also reciprocal. And we haven't seen any signs from Russia that it does want peace.
Do you think Donald Trump is starting to see what Vladimir Putin is really like? Because this maritime truce is a long way from what the president originally proposed, isn't it?
It is extremely important to underline that Ukraine and US are strategic partners. And I don't think that Russia has persuaded the USA that they didn't do these crimes. I'm more than sure that there are no illusions that Russia is an aggressor state.
But 4 weeks after what happened in the Oval Office, are you really convinced, as you put it, that Donald Trump is under no illusions? Or do you think Trump is actually on Russia's side, not yours?
You know, after 11 years of war, I don't think any country in the world has illusions about Russian atrocities and crimes. Well,
It's not how it came across in the Oval Office, though, is it?
With regardless to the developments in the Oval Office, I would say that it is important to look what we have in Ukraine right now. Russia managed to destroy Ukrainian cities because we need more support.
And yet Trump and his envoys and his allies are giving you no guarantee that you're going to get back any of that territory that Russia took illegally.
I can assure you that the red line that Ukraine has is no territorial compromises.
But you would accept that you can't recover them now?
We should be absolutely maximalistic in terms of our land, our territory, and our sovereignty. And our plan A is the only plan. This is the victory of Ukraine.
But you think that Donald Trump does believe that, despite what he says and despite the fact that the maritime truce arguably favours Russia? And, you know, he talks about sanctions maybe considering they will be weakened, as Russia has asked for.
I'm confident that USA stands with Ukraine.
That's a very short way of saying you want to keep the peace with America.
But this is extremely to the point. I'm more than sure that the US stays with Ukraine.
The Paris summit has been taking place today to talk about the future of Ukraine. How much use, in your view, is a so-called reassurance force if it only involves the UK and France?
I would say that it is extremely important to have boots on the ground. Any presence, international presence on the ground, is on one hand a security guarantee, but on the other, it is also a deterrent to Russia.
But let me push you on one detail, because what use are boots on the ground if those boots, those soldiers, can't open fire on Russian troops?
No, we need a solid presence with international presence and those soldiers who could defend Ukraine.
They need to be prepared to fire on Russian troops in anger.
Of course.
But isn't that World War III?
You know, Russia has waged this war many years ago against Ukraine, but it's not only about Ukraine. It's definitely not only about Moldova or Georgia or any other country. It's about the whole principles of democratic countries. You know, it's about values, about freedom, about democracy.
So it's about the freedom of Europe?
It's about a freedom not only of Europe also, it's about a freedom of entire democratic world.
And if Europe doesn't beef up its troops, doesn't boost its defence forces, your message to them?
Well, to be honest, Ukraine literally defends the eastern flank of NATO right now. And it's not only that it's Ukraine's goal to become a member of NATO, but I think that NATO also needs Ukraine.
The French President Emmanuel Macron says it is possible to have this reassurance force without American backing, without American support explicitly. Do you think that is possible, or do you need American support?
We need American support. We need transatlantic unity.
So it can't be done without American support, this reassurance force?
We definitely think that we need USA on board.
Mariana Betsa, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.